Okay, so we are now recording. I have a few more people in the waiting room. All right, so just a quick introduction for those of you that may not know me, because we're going to be recording. I am Blanche Falk. I am the Orientation, Mobility, and Outreach Coordinator for LSVI. And we are very, very excited to have Miss Gail on here tonight. She's going to be teaching us all about Braille. And then she's also going to be our special guest on Friday when we do our make and take. So Miss Anna Gail, thank you. I'm going to turn my mic off and my video off. So if parents, if you need anything, you can put it in the chat.
All right. Let's see. Let me get myself. Okay. So I'm Miss Gail, and I teach Braille at the school. I've been doing this now 14 years, pre-K through 12th grade, and this right now I have high schoolers. But a lot of the things I do with them, I've done with the little kids, except on a advanced level. So I'm going to talk to you tonight and share with you things you can do with your children at home to get them interested and used to touching so they'll be ready for Braille. And I'm going to talk about some fun things, how to make the Braille cell, how to use it, book identification, and how to make put little stickers in books you have at home so the child can start getting used to finding tactile images in a book that they may already have at home. And we'll talk about top, bottom, left, right. And then I'll show you how to make papers and things accessible, or cards, like game cards, how to make them accessible for your child. So all these have to do with tactile ways to either strengthen or get them used to the Braille cell. So this is a Braille cell, and it's a paint. These are paint trays that you can get in any craft store, or you can use an egg carton. If you have a 12 egg carton, you just cut it in half so that you have 6 cells. And these are the Braille cells. On the left would be 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5, 6. And with beginners, any age likes to do this. You can start teaching them about the numbers. If you want talk about the numbers, one, of course, everybody learns 1, and it's always A. And I like to use, you can use Skittles in here, raisins, fruit snacks. I like fruit snacks. You put them in the cell. So 1 would go in that first cell. If the tray's laying down, there's 1. But you want to keep the tray where it's vertical, like this with the child, because that's the way the Braille cell looks when they're creating dots on the machine. So that's 1. You put a 1 in there, a gummy or something, until they got used to making the 1, which is A. I also like these colorful marshmallows. I picked them up somewhere, I don't know, but they taste good. You can use marshmallows. I don't use cotton puffs because kids tend to want to try to do stuff with them. So if it's edible, they really like it. So you just decide what you want to use with your child to put in each one of the dots of the Braille cell. But some of the easiest letters to teach them are the A, which is dot 1, B is 1, 2, and then the L, 1, 2, 3. And I will have to get your emails or something and send you the alphabet, the Braille alphabet. But usually you can, if you go to Aroga charts, they'll send you a chart, or you can download the chart. But that's one of the things I do with them. You can use jelly beans in here. You can also take graham crackers and ice them. If your child can have icing, ice them along the whole graham cracker and make sure it's vertical, and then ice the whole, let them put the icing on, which is a big mess, but they like to do it. And then use those raisins or Skittles or whatever you're doing to make the dots on the graham cracker. Marking a book for identification that you have at your house, and just maybe they have a favorite storybook or something. You can there's some tactile, you can see this one. Our kids like this book, I Don't Want to Be a Frog. And you can get these symbol stickers from APH is where we get a lot of our things. And that's the symbol, that's the ID number on the tab for it. We use the marker symbols for a lot of things. You can mark objects with them. The kids who are reading Braille, they mark their indentions where their paragraphs start. They do that way. So we use these markers for a lot. But in this book that I took, which actually has Braille in it, but I'm just going to use it for an example for you. So you can take a sticky or a sticker that's tactile, and this one has an X. So throughout the whole book, I have put X's on all the frogs, the little guy. Well, let me show you here. So here's, he and his father are together. The little guy has an X on him, and the father has the 3. He has a raised 3-dot pattern. And everywhere the father and the boy are and the frog are in the story, they have the same sticker. So if you're reading to your child, they know that the baby frog has an X on him, you can ask them to find the baby frog by touching on the picture. And then on this one, I also have an R for rabbit. So I've got R stickers on the rabbit so they can find it and touch it. So this way they get used to touching something tactile in the storybook at home. But you don't want to get carried away sticking stickers everywhere because then they get confused. So I only use a few on each page. In this one, the frog and the dad, you can pretty well learn it. If you're artsy craftsy, you can get some puff paint. This is a story, and I don't know if you can see it on here very well, but the boot right here is tactile. I've put puff paint on this stocking, and throughout the whole story, if you're reading it to them, they can find the stocking on the page because it has the puff paint on it. And I've done one on the inside. So this red stocking here has puff paint around it. So you can just ask the child on each page that you get to where the stocking is, they can find the stocking because you put tactile little puff paint on the book. So let's see. Then if you have cards at home, I was going to show you one. Here's a word card I have. Braille kids know that if they get a small card like this or an index card a teacher gives to them and it has Braille on it, there's either going to be a running row of dots right across the top so the child knows this is the top of the card. Or you can cut the corner, the top right-hand corner like I've done here. And that way the child, because this whole thing, I mean, it has Braille on it, but they're not sure which way to hold the card. So they'll go all around knowing that the Braille's in the middle, but they can't figure out where the top is unless you tell them. So for them, if you just cut the right upper corner of your card for them, they'll know, they'll learn, you'll tell them, find the cut corner, and they'll find it. And another good thing about it being in the top right is that's where their page numbers will be in a textbook. So automatically they're learning top right, which is a skill they need for that. Okay, do y'all have any questions so far or want to make a comment? Yes, no, okay. Let's see. Book orientation is really important for the child. This is a book, The Garden is Fun. So so you can start teaching your children. The title is always on the bind. of the book right here on, and it runs up and down. So when it's turned this way, the child is automatic. I tell them, find your title and lay the book down on the table and turn it with the spine at your tummy. Pull it towards your tummy, and they usually do that. And then they'll put their hand on here and they'll feel Braille. And even if your child's not reading, just for them to get used to feeling where the title of the book is in Braille, that's important. So it's always here. Now, when they open the book, the Braille's going to be, this one's got Braille, but you probably can't see it very much. It's always going to be at the top. And usually it'll have the author's name too, so they can learn that real people actually write these things. So with the book orientation, I'm teaching them top, bottom, left, and right, front and back, and where to find the page numbers. So I just have them lay the book down on the table, and we get used to, I usually say, where's your head? And they'll touch their head, and I'll say top. And so they'll get used to touching their head. That's the top of their body. And then I'll have them touch their feet, and that will be the bottom of their body. So then at the book, that's how I start working with them on figuring out where top and bottom are on a book. You could do it with their plate at the table, or if you have a placemat you put under their plate, you can start working with the top, where the top of the placemat is, or and then we talked about bottom, where the bottom of the book is, the page. Left and right is hard. There's kids still in upper elementary that have a hard time with the left and right. And you probably know, if you've been through O&M class with Miss Stacy and them, that they talk about left and right. And it's just a hard concept, but usually I tell them to lay the book, and I ask them to lay their hand down where the title was. And then I teach them that's the left of the book. And then when they open, I have them open the book flat, and I usually have them always make them touch the left of the page. So, whoops. So on this one, it's showing on my right. And I make them open the book. Now, there's nothing here to feel, but I want them to get in the habit that when they open a book or turn a page, they need to always touch the left. So I keep emphasizing the left of the page, the left page, because there's going to be some Braille on the left at some point. And with their little books, they're not. But normally, when they get up a little older, they'll be in the practice of always touching left. So they touch the left. We slide our hand over. I'll say, slide your hand to the right. So they'll move over. And then I'll ask them to find the Braille for the title. And I do this all the way through the book. We don't even talk about the words. We just talk about the book. So I'll say, turn the page. And normally they'll go, sometimes they land in the middle of the book, which is fine. And if they touch Braille, they'll say, Braille, look, there's Braille. And so we talk about that. And then I'll say, make sure you're touching the left. And I'll say, is there Braille? And they'll say yes. And if there's not Braille, it's going to be smooth, and then they'll say no. So I do that every page. I'll say, slide to the right. Do you feel Braille? No. Or they may say yes. And we do this all through the page. Turn the page. Hand on the left. Any Braille? Yes. And sometimes they'll find it, but they may just lay their hand here. I may tell them to move up the page, and so they're used to the top. The other thing I teach them about the book is When they open the front cover, it's going to be, usually there's nothing. Then we do the title page. And sometimes there's a page number at the top here, but not usually. So once we do the left and open, it's blank. Then they move to the left and find the Braille. I teach them that to go up to the top of the book and slide their hand to the right. And that's their page number. And I tell them the page number is always in the top right. And that stays true all the way through high school. So I want to make sure they know they can find the top right. And so we turn the page. Do you feel Braille? Yes. Slide your hand to the right. Do you feel Braille? Yes. It's, you know, there's none here. And then I'll say, where's the page? And they'll slide up and find it there. So we do that through the book. And once we get through the book, then I'll say, we're closed. We'll say we're at the end of the book. So they're at the end, I'll tell them to close the book and I'll say, this is the back. If this is the back, where's the front? And sometimes they'll flip it over, sometimes they don't. So that's another thing. I teach them how to find the front of the book again. And I'll do that with them over and over. Each time I'm with them, that's all we'll do before we get into the Braille business of what, you know, the words and things are. And it just gets them used to top, bottom, left, right, open, close, top, bottom, and front and back. And then their page number. So it gets them into a routine of going through these things. And it's a slow process, but it's worth the process because these are things they're going to have and use. And then for getting their hands strong, you can do a lot of things. You can squeeze tennis balls. They can do they like to do finger exercises. We'll hold our fingers up and just wiggle our fingers because I know it seems silly, but there's muscles in those little hands and we want them to be strong for doing things like reading and when they get to the Braille writer. This thing is called a geo board. They use a lot in math, but the kids, you can do it with yarn. You've probably seen looms you can do. This comes with different size rubber bands. There's big long ones and short ones and medium ones. And they just can put them wherever they want to. But as you know, rubber bands, sometimes they take a little strength. So it builds up strength because they have to pull them across and stretch them. And this was actually, you know, it's just in the toy section. So I pick up things that I think that are going to be good to strengthen their hands. Another way to strengthen their hands is with Play-Doh, letting them use Play-Doh, rolling it around, squeezing it, a lot of squeezing going on. And Braille, our kids at school, the pre-K, even though they're little bitty, they get used to touching dots or playing with the dots. They get introduced to the Braille writer. And a lot of kids that are starting Braille start at age 3, which seems incredible, but I worked with them last year and we worked with that, with the Braille writer. And we did a lot of the activities like I showed you I've done that I did tonight with them. So trying to think of another thing. So that's what I do until I start working with them on the actual Braille. And I will start them off with the alphabet. And we'll do different activities till we get through and start working. Does anyone have any questions? comments? Okay.
I don't think anyone has any questions right now, Ms. Gail. But I certainly enjoyed it. We had a couple parents on here, and they're little bitty. So like I said, let me go ahead and we'll stop the